I'm often asked about standards we build to and certifications. And all of our 5 Series boats are built to CE Category A certification. That is unlimited offshore. It's CE's highest certification. We meet both the equipment scantling standards and the construction scantlings, which involve things like panel stiffness, laminates, and we meet or exceed all the standards for CE Category A. That's unlimited offshore, any ocean. We also diligently follow ABYC standards, all they're applicable. Some apply just to very large yachts, but we use everything that's applicable to the size yachts we build, including things like egress and emergency access and handholds and wire color codes and exhaust sizes and electrical systems. So every ABYC standard that is applicable, we follow diligently. Also, it's pretty obscure, but there was a time when American Bureau of Shipping published scantling rules for offshore racing yachts. They haven't published these rules since 1988, but before that, all of our boats, the old 36, 34, I had all of our plans approved by the American Bureau of Shipping, which means they reviewed all of the laminate schedules, the rudder specifications, the steering system, again, panel stiffness, keel attachments, those kinds of things, and they would approve. They didn't come and inspect the boat, but they approved the plans to which you were building the boat. They no longer do that, but I thought it was a very good rule to follow, and we still follow that ABS rule that was published. Hasn't been published since 1988, but I think it's just a wonderful sort of certification to have. It's not real certification, but you will edit this. Mm-hmm. But it's a wonderful kind of backup to have, to know that higher authorities looked at your plans and approved the way you built the boat. So we still use those same laminate schedules for the boats to which it applies, and still follow the same principles that we follow for those boats, even though ABS no longer does it. I thought it was great to have an American rating rule that did, or scantling rule that did that. And we also participate in the NMA Yacht Certification Program. And what the Yacht Certification Program does is they have excerpted some of the CE standards and a lot of ABYC standards and published their own standard, and they come to the plant about every 4 months and randomly go through boats to make sure we're following those standards. So that's not a passive certification, that's active. They actually send an inspector to the plant, and he goes through each model that we have NMA certification on, which is all the boats above 25 feet. So we've made a good faith effort to follow every standard that exists and applies to all the boats in the 5 Series.
Gerry, I've had several people in the industry tell me that a Catalina is not a blue water cruising boat, that it's a coastal cruising boat. Can you comment on Catalina and their ability to cross oceans?
Well, I think probably the best way to address that is to look at the standards the boat is built to. CE looks pretty hard at those kinds of things, Bill, and we meet and exceed CE Category A scantlings, which is unlimited offshore, any ocean. That speaks, I think, to that question greater than I can. Now, a couple of things that I don't think being a great coastal cruiser excluded from being a good ocean crossing boat. The boat is certainly strong enough. I take my family anywhere in any of our current 5 Series boats. The things you might want to add are more attachment points for harnesses in the cockpit. You may want to, as you would any offshore boat built by anybody, rig some sort of storm covers for the outside windows if you're going somewhere where you can't anticipate the weather. You might want to put a strobe in the masthead. Those kind of things we don't do because most people don't need them. It would add unnecessary expense, and you'd have to have a place to store them. But the basic structure of the boat, the scantlings of the boat, the equipment of the boat, engine, tanks, batteries, all those things are certainly capable. The rigs, the way the rigs are stayed, as you know, all of our boats have inline uppers, inline intermediates, fore and aft lowers. You can lose any single wire on the boat and you're not going to lose the rig. Unlike boats that might have single chain plate attachment points on deck, where if one chain plate goes, say with a swept back spreader rig, lose one piece of wire, that rig's going over the side. If you don't have any backstays and you have all the masts supported in the aft just by one upper that's swept aft, lose that piece of wire, that rig is going over the side. There's no second chance with that. All our rigs are very well stayed, so I think that gives you a real comfort factor and safety at sea that, any one piece of wire is not gonna mean the loss of the rig. The boats are also a little bit over-rigged. We tend to generally be very conservative in our wire specifications. So we built a lot of safety into the rig itself. We've had many of these boats circumnavigate safely. And I think that speaks volumes to the boat's capability.
All right, thank you.